So TikTok told you that you couldn't retire early or that you couldn't actually pull the money from retirement accounts early. And I'm here to tell you that's a lie. I'm here to tell you the truth because as a CPA and as a national bestseller, I know the actual financial game. And my goal is to educate you and expose the industry for what it is. If somebody is telling you that you should not be investing in retirement accounts because you can't touch it early, they are wrong. And I'm going to expose all of that today. So let's walk through an example with our girl named Sam today. That is going to be a specific situation. I'm going to walk through her situation, everything you need to know, and then talk about the 4 specific ways that you can withdraw money before 59.5 with your investments. Okay, so we have Sam on the screen right now, and she's going to be retiring at the age of 50 in this example. We have to consider a few things, specifically the 4% rule is probably one of the most important things right off the bat. So the 4% rule, what is that? That comes from what's called the Trinity study. This is when you add up all of your investments and you withdraw 4% of the total during the first year of retirement. Super simple. Portfolio totals $1 million, let's say, then you can withdraw 4% or $40,000 in the first year. However, cost of living does rise. And so let's say it rises 2% in the next year, you would be able to take 40,000 plus that extra percentage of increase in living, and you would be able to withdraw that. So 40,800 in this example for the next 30 years. A few other things I want to consider before we go into the details of the way you can withdraw money early. So number one is Sam needs to understand her FIRE number, her financial independence retire early number. Let's say that's 75,000 or $6,250 per month. If you annualize 6,250 per month, it gets to 75,000. All you have to do is take that number and multiply it by 25. Her number is 1.875 million. So we have to get to 1.875 million for her to retire early, let's say at the age of 50. So one other point of consideration that you want to know during this is the standard deduction. So in 2024, and this changes every single year, right now, if you're married filing jointly in your tax return, you can withdraw $29,200 of pre-tax retirement money to where you'd be taxed at 0%. This is huge down the road when you're withdrawing money. If you're single, that number is $14,600. So these are important numbers to know because when you draw down your money or when you withdraw from your portfolio in the future, these numbers can be strategized to your advantage, but you have to know what you're doing. You have to work with the CPA to actually get the benefit of this. So let's use the example. She needs $1.875 million. Let's break this apart between the taxable brokerage of $750,000, the traditional 401k, so pre-tax 401k of $500,000, and a Roth IRA of $625,000. So all of these accounts make up 1.875 million or her early retirement number. Now at age 50, we're going to consider that she has this amount of money. She's already done all the work on the front end. She's built this up. And if you want to reverse this and understand how much it takes to invest this, all you need is a compound interest calculator to figure out how much per month she had to invest at whatever age she was, let's call it 25 to 50, in order to get to this point. And we do this all the time with the Budgetdog Academy. And this is super simple. And this is why financial independence is a lot easier than you think. And in my national bestseller, The Roadmap to Financial Freedom, I show people exactly how to do this. So with that being said, let's walk through example number 1 as to how she can withdraw this money early and why TikTok has lied to you or your insurance agent has told you the incorrect facts to support their agenda. That could potentially be at play right now. However, you can withdraw your money early, and I'm going to show you the first way. So the first way is the most obvious and easy way, is a taxable brokerage account. This is actually not a retirement account at all, but we need to start here to understand the simplicity of this type of account. So this is a non-retirement account. This is an account you can open anywhere. Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, pretty much anybody that has an account or an investment account open that doesn't know what type of account it is, like they have one at Robinhood or Acorns, it's considered a taxable brokerage account. So if you're in that position, what you could do or what Sam could do in this position at age 50, assuming she has, remember, $750,000 in the brokerage account, 401k of $500,000, and Roth IRA of $625,000. All of these accounts are going to be taxed differently. So the way she withdraws is super important here. So in this example, if you just want to rely on the taxable brokerage, and I know my guy, the Wealth Dad, Sean, loves the brokerage account. He talks about it all the time, but specifically, the easiest way to early retire is probably this way. However, is it the most strategic from a tax standpoint? Probably not, but this is what they would do. So Sam at the age of 50 would begin to withdraw that money from the brokerage account. So for the next 9.5 years until she turns 59.5, she would withdraw from purely the brokerage account. She would allow all of the other money to grow forever, essentially, or at least till 59.5, to where she could start to withdraw that money. The Roth IRA and the traditional 401k. Now at 59.5, she can then use those accounts going forward, plus the brokerage, and she's off to the races forever, essentially. That might not be the most strategic way, and here's why. Here are the tax implications that you need to know. So as you see on the screen, number 1 is capital appreciation, the increase in the value of the asset. So if you hold things less than a year versus holding them greater than a year, they're taxed differently, as you can see. Less favorable. More favorable. So if I hold them less than 1 year, they're taxed at the ordinary income tax rate. If I hold greater than a year, they're taxed at the capital gains tax rate. That's 0, 15, or 20%, likely 15% for most people. So therefore, if I'm at the 24% tax bracket, I have a 9% difference depending on how long I hold these assets. There's a huge benefit in holding assets for a long period of time, especially greater than a year. This is why traders have no idea what they're doing. They don't even understand this core concept. 9% doesn't sound like a lot until you add a couple zeros to it, and it gets extreme with tax savings. Number 2 is you could earn dividends in this brokerage account you need to be aware of. So these are just thank you payouts from companies. So you could either have a qualified dividend or an unqualified dividend. Qualified dividends are taxed more favorably, unqualified less favorably. And a pro tip here is REITs or real estate investment trusts do pay unqualified dividends. I highly advise you to think about where you place your REITs. This is oftentimes why I say REITs and bonds are better served in a retirement account because of the unfavorable tax implication, which gets me into my third piece here, the interest or fixed income payments from bonds. And like I just said, it's unfavorable. It's taxed at the ordinary income tax rate, and which is why I always say bonds and real estate investment trusts make more sense in a retirement account typically. Obviously, diversification is a whole nother game and a whole nother conversation, but just generally speaking, that's a pro tip. So that is the first and most easy way to do it. But of course, you got to understand all the tax implications behind this. Now, the second way to early withdraw your money, and this is actually specifically retirement accounts, is called the Rule of 55. So the Rule of 55 gets you out of paying that 10% penalty, early withdrawal penalty, if you pull your money from a retirement account, specifically a 401k, at the current employer. And I want to say that again, FYI, it's at the current employer. You can't have old 401k funds sitting out there that you can withdraw early. But if you're at your current employer, this is a fantastic way to get money out. So instead of 59.5, you can withdraw your money at 55. Like, did anybody ever tell you this? I have a lot of clients and a lot of students that have done this exact method, or they're gearing up to do this exact method in the future. They like their job. They don't want to retire at 20. They want to work most of their life, but they do want to retire before 65. This is such a great way to do it. Very simplified. I'm going to walk you through her example and then how you can actually apply this to your situation as well. So assuming the same setup, she has the brokerage of $750,000, the traditional 401k of $500,000, and the Roth IRA of $625,000. That accounts for $1.875 million, which is her FIRE number. But because she's using the Rule of 55 versus the taxable brokerage account, the way she withdraws or draws this money down is going to be different. So because of taxes, because of the situation she's in, and because she wants to retire at 50, she can't touch this money until 55. She might be working at her job until 55, so from 50 to 55, but she works part-time. She doesn't work as hard as she once did. She's not full-time. She knows she's phasing out, and she knows she's going to do slow and steady. So maybe for the first 5 years, to support her old income, she pulls from the brokerage account for the next 5 years. And then at the age of 55, she now decides to retire, or her company gets sick of her and fires her, whatever the case is. But she can access that traditional 401k at age 55, which is awesome because that's 4.5 years earlier than TikTok has told you. And then at the age of 59.5, she can then dip into her Roth IRA just like she traditionally would be able to. And then going forward, she could use all 3 accounts. So she could start phasing out of her job at the age of 50 in this situation to maybe part-time, to then full-time retire at age 55, and then obviously living the rest of her life with all of these accounts accessible to her. So I think the Rule of 55 is one of the most strategic and easy ways to do this outside of the brokerage account. I'm going to get into the third way she can withdraw this money, and this becomes more complicated. It's not that complicated by any means, but for presentation's sake, I'm going to keep this super simple for you. So this is called the Roth conversion ladder. So all a Roth IRA conversion ladder does is moves your money from a tax deferred account like a 401k into a Roth IRA. It could also be like a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA. You're basically moving funds from one account to another. Now, when you make this move, there's tax implications. Remember, you always have to be aware of the tax implications. So when you move this money, it's considered income tax. So a lot of people do this when their income lowers or their tax rate lowers. So maybe a spouse quits their job and maybe they go part-time, or maybe they quit their job entirely, the other spouse works. So therefore their income split in two or something similar to that. Maybe the market contracts and the values in the shares that you hold are lesser than they once were. And so if you convert those, you're taking the dollar amount that you're going to be less taxed up, but the same amount of shares when you move those over. There's all sorts of reasons why people would do this, especially when they have a lower tax rate as well, because ultimately that's what you want to do. You want to minimize your taxes over the long haul. Too many people are in the here and now with taxes, and they're trying to save taxes right now, right here. W-2 workers, I'm calling you out. How do you save taxes? It's like you're not optimizing your 30-year window, your 40-year window, and that's what you want to do. but you're too short-sighted and you're seeing the here and now, and that's why you never will win with taxes. It's also why you need to watch this video. So the IRA conversion ladder specifically will convert your funds from your traditional IRA or traditional 401k to your Roth IRA, and then you can't touch it until 5 years later. That's a very important concept of this whole entire thing. So if she's retiring, let's call Sam at 50 years old, the first Roth conversion ladder takes place at 50. She cannot touch that till 55. The reason why they call it the Roth conversion ladder, the second conversion would happen at age 51. She can't touch that money until 56, and so on and so forth. So you can set yourself up whenever you want to start in this situation at 50 years old, but you can't touch the money till 5 years after. You also have to hit your FIRE number, because if you stop working, then that defeats the whole entire purpose. Sure, you can convert that money, but eventually you'll run out. So the whole goal is to become financially free, then make this move. And as you see on the screen during this process, you're going to want to know the long-term capital gains rate. I have 2024 by filing status on the screen, but 0, 15%, and 20%, like we talked about earlier. Typically, people are hovering within the 15% range based on the income. As you can see on the screen, most people are between those ranges, but obviously your situation might be different. So it's good to see this at least during this process. Okay, so let's say Sam has the same exact setup. She's literally $750,000 in the brokerage, 401k has $500,000, Roth IRA is $625,000. Here's how she would actually work within the Roth conversion ladder process. So number one is beginning at the age of 50 years old. Sam begins to strategically move money each year to minimize and avoid taxes through Roth conversion ladders to access in the upcoming years. So she's going to start this process at age 50, but that does not mean that she's always going to take the exact dollar amount and move it over. Depending on her current income, if she has side hustle income or W-2 income still for whatever reason she's not phasing out entirely, she wants to be strategic about that because this money that she's moving over is going to be taxed. Number two is during this time, she uses her taxable brokerage to fund her life for those 5-year gaps. So the first 5 years, 50 to 55, assuming she has no other income and she's just moving that money over, she might need to pull from her brokerage account to then access funds to live because she's not able to actually touch that money till 55 in this situation, 5 years after she starts this process. So she has to be aware of that. And then compare that to option number one, where she used the brokerage from 50 to 59.5. She's now only using that for the first 5 years of that 9.5-year period. So she then can tap into this money earlier. And again, this strategy works at whatever age. Like I'm just using 50 to 55. I could start this process at 30 if I wanted to. It's just hard because most people don't have money saved up in that situation, which goes back to my whole point as to I don't want to get rich at 60 argument. Most people, it takes some time. Unless you make a lot of money, it's hard to become financially free at a young age, especially at like 35 or something crazy like that. You can still invest your money for the long haul and enjoy your current life. I know TikTok has lied to you and they've told you why you can't do that, but stop believing that lie. Now, the last option, number 4, would be called 72T. Now, this is a lot more complicated. I'm not going to get into the details of the tables or the methods of distribution, but I will talk high level about it, and I'll let you guys do the research if you really want to go down that rabbit hole. But 72T is a pretty common rule that a lot of financial advisors or professionals use with their clients. So all the 72T rule is allow, and this is not the rule of 72. You might hear that with people talking about how you can calculate quickly, how you can double your money. This is not related at all. So rule 72T lets you establish a schedule of annual or more frequent withdrawals from your retirement account called SEPs. These SEPs are called substantially equal periodic payments. So when you withdraw money from a qualified retirement account under rule 72T, the funds are distributed to you as SEPs, and these regular payments are made over the course of 5 years or until you turn 59.5. So for example, if you are 50, like in Sam's example, this would go for 9.5 years. But if she was 57, she did the same thing, it would be 5 years. So please understand that key concept. And then a few other requirements is number 1 is you must schedule annual payments at a minimum. Number 2 is you must pay income taxes on money that's never been taxed, obviously, but I have to say it. And number 3 is you cannot withdraw funds from an account managed by an employer you're still working for. Very important concepts here. Because with the rule of 55, it had to be money from your current employer. Here, reversal. And number 3 here, it's saying you cannot withdraw funds from an account managed by an employer you're actually working for actively. So that would be a piece of the puzzle as well. And then we have multiple different tables, and you would qualify depending on your actual tax filing status or which table you fall under. And we have the uniform table, the joint and last survivor expectancy table, and the single expectancy table. Again, I'm not going to get into the details of each one. You can read the screen if you want to. And then you have the minimum distribution method, the amortization method, the annuity method. Basically some actuaries came up with the idea of these tables and these methods, and they put you into a box, and based on that, that determines the amount. Okay, so let's say Sam is in this situation, wants to withdraw early using 72T, SEP, and she has the same setup. Remember, $750,000 in the brokerage, traditional 401k of $500,000, Roth IRA of $625,000. What Sam could do, and of course, it depends on her situation. She could pool the RMD amount, required minimum distribution amount, based on the tables and distribution methods from the 72T rule. That would be a very strategic way to go about it, but she would be somewhat in a box, like I mentioned, depending on her situation. Number two is she could use her partial taxable brokerage during this time as well. So she could pull some money from there as well. It depends on the strategic advantage from a tax standpoint, if that makes sense. And then number three is she would consider Roth IRA contributions. Not to say she would do this, but she can withdraw Roth IRA contributions, and you can too as well at any point in time after 5 years for no penalty. And there is no penalty. Now, the reason I don't recommend to do this is because if you do this at an early age, you're withdrawing money from your future, and that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But technically speaking, you can withdraw Roth IRA contributions because remember, they go in after tax. So you've already paid tax on them, and it's your contributions. It's the seed of your investment. It's not the actual tree of your investment. So that would be her fourth option that she could do. And of course, we walked through all of the options and then step by step of what she would do in those specific situations. So to recap, you can withdraw your money early from retirement accounts. There's multiple different ways to do this. Number one is the taxable brokerage. That is a non-retirement account. Number two is the Rule 55. Number three is Roth conversion ladders. And number four is 72T. There are also other hacks to withdraw your money penalty-free from your retirement accounts early, such as a down payment on your first house and things like that. But I'm not getting into that in this video at all. We will do that in a future video. However, understand that there's more to this game investment-wise and tax-wise than TikTok leads you to believe. And all of the stuff you see on the internet, there's way more to this. This is why I'm coming to you with exposing the truth, and also just shining light on the education you need to know. So with that being said, I will see you next Monday.